Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion advised.
Alright, welcome back, brothers and sisters, to the only Warcraft podcast that speaks your love language. Love language that says, let's get down and dirty. Happy New Year's. Yes, it's 3 weeks old, so sue me. But nevertheless, I'm back and ready to get rolling on what could arguably be the biggest year in Warcraft history. So, a few people did ask, where have I been? Where did I go? All right, well, what's with the extended hiatus? Well, to be honest, I actually didn't intend for it to be that long. I had a quick Christmas thing that I was sort of working on, and when it was clear that that was not going to work out at all the way I had planned, called it a day and decided to come back after the holidays. Then I've had a bit of a hardware issue that if you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen a little bit about. So I've got something that's going on with my machinery, and I'm waiting to see how that flushes out before I give the full detail and rundown on how that went down. So we had that, and then on top of that, also had a trip down to the great Disneyland. This is the season of the Force, in case you didn't know. For the little Zerker's birthday. So, all told, getting any kind of podcast out to you, my Furian faithful, just has not been in the cards. But that's over. I'll sleep when I'm dead, because now it's time to get moving with our first show of the year. So, let's go! Let's rage! It's 2016, and being that it's okay, it's still January, but what is the one thing that you hear so often at this time of year, towards the end of the year, first of the year? New Year's resolutions. Folks, I'm here to tell you, New Year's resolutions are bullshit. I don't know why anybody does them. I don't know why people feel the need to mark these things by the first of the year when most of the time resolutions are blown by, I don't know, the third or fourth hour. I'm going to read you a quote, and I think that this accurately sums up, I believe, how I, and frankly how everyone else should feel about New Year's resolutions. And it says, "Now is the accepted time to make your regular annual good resolutions. Next week you can begin paving hell with them as usual. Yesterday everybody smoked his last cigar, took his last drink, and swore his last oath. Today we are a pious and exemplary community. 30 days from now, we shall have cast our reformation to the winds and gone to cutting our ancient shortcomings considerably shorter than ever. We shall also reflect pleasantly upon how we did the same old thing last year about this time. However, go in, community. New Year's is a harmless annual institution of no particular use to anybody, save as a scapegoat for promiscuous drunks and friendly calls and humbug resolutions, and we wish you to enjoy it with a looseness suited to the greatness of the occasion." So, really, folks, enjoy, I guess, the feeling of something new or rebirth or whatever you want to call it. But you don't need this as an excuse to launch yourself into something new. Think about it. New Year's is just an arbitrary date that somebody picked a long time ago, and I'm sure somebody smarter than I can tell you why that is. But it's just a day. If you want to start something new, just do it. Do it today. Do it right now. When I wanted to start this podcast, I just decided I'm going to do it, and I did it. I didn't need a date. I didn't need a time of year. I mean, frankly, I probably picked the worst time of year to do this, because doing it during a complete blackout of information when there's really nothing happening probably wasn't the smartest choice in terms of starting a show, but I did it. And so can you. You want to hit a new, I don't know, bench press record. If you're wanting to start learning how to cook, if you want to do, I don't know, learn how to fix a car, whatever, just do it. You don't need to pick a day and say, oh, I'm going to do 365 days of drawing. Just start. Just do it. You don't need a New Year's resolution. Just decide for yourself. I'm going to do this thing, and off you go. So listen, you're probably not hearing this for the first time here, but New Year's resolutions are bullshit. You can choose to change your world any day. It doesn't have to just be January 1. Pick a day, pick what you want to do, and just do it. All right. I just ripped off Nike, but who gives a shit? On to the news.
And now it's time for News and the Blues.
All right, I lied. So before I get to the news, I actually have a piece of reader mail. And I want to thank you, Navox, for sending me something to answer on the show, because I've been begging people to write to me or to send me airmail or anything where I can answer on the show. So you're the first and the only, so thank you. And part of the reason why I'm answering this now is, one, I haven't done a show since this question was submitted, but two, it really ties into one of the vacation things that I had going on. So let's go with this question. It reads, Dear Unshackled Fury, how does one go see The Force Awakens and not tear up like a little bitch when we see characters that we haven't seen since we were 7 years old? Well, I'll tell you. You don't fight it. You just tear up. Because that's really the essence of what it is to be a warrior, is you're in touch with your emotions. And that's what it's all about. And part of the tears, you can tear up from rage. Why not? You can tear up from all kinds of things. And as somebody who just went to Disneyland with his 5-year-old son and sat through all the Star Wars stuff, even watched the little 10-minute Star Wars movie that they had in the old Captain EO theater, I teared up like a bitch the whole time. I was bawling practically, right there in front of my child and 3 little old ladies who thought I was hysterical. You know what? You just gotta let it ride, man. Because that's the thing about whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Warcraft, whether it's anything else that you dig and that you're interested in, you gotta feel it. So don't fight it. Just feel it. Embrace it. Wrap yourself in it. That's part of the human condition. That's part of the human experience. So if you feel like you're looking at Han Solo and some shit goes down and you got to cry, fucking cry. Just do it, man. Just do it. Don't ever fight that, because that's who you are. That's who we are as warriors. That's who we are as people. That's who we are as Warcraft players. That's why I like going to Disneyland. And that's why I like playing Warcraft, is because those same emotions come out when I feel connected to a character, or I feel connected to an event, or whatever it is. That's why I do these things. That's why I engage in this, is because I want to feel those things. If it was just some blind, emotionless act, then I'd go, I don't know, be an accountant or something. That's what I do in my spare time. So in the end, I say, don't fight it. Just roll with it. As many of us know, the Alpha Realms have come back online. I, myself, we're going on, 50-something days? 40-something days without Alpha access? I lost count. I'm like a man lost in the desert. I'm just trying to reach each horizon and survive to the next day. So I have not seen any of this stuff personally. Like many of you, I'm going on Wowhead and MMO Champion and looking at certain things. I'm trying not to spoil anything for myself. But the Alpha Realms are back up. There are some invites going out, so they are expanding the pool of players that gets to come check it out. So if you're lucky enough, congratulations. You're one of the chosen few who get to come and see it. And when you get there, it sounds like we have a new dungeon that's been added and a new zone that looks to be very nightmare-ish and pretty interesting, honestly. It sounds like there's also some raid testing that might be going on, but other than that, for now, there's just more data mining, essentially. There are models of the artifacts going around. I may do a rage segment at some point about my unhappiness with the Fury artifact. It's really missing the mark. But a lot of the other ones are doing quite well. Very beautiful. Variety is wonderful. The tier sets that are coming out look to be pretty spot on in terms of thematic points and just generally looking badass, which is nice. But as a whole, there just isn't a whole lot of, let's say, Warcraft news at the moment. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I probably did not pick the best time to start a podcast about Warcraft, simply because right now it's a slow time. It's a slow time. But things will start picking up. As I said, I believe that this is going to be the biggest year in Warcraft history. So let's move away from the alpha stuff and talk about why I think this year is going to be so big. So looking forward, We know that we have the continual ramp up to the Legion expansion. So we'll have the alpha right now, quote unquote alpha. Then we will work our way into the beta, hopefully in the coming weeks and months, leading up to what they said was a summer release. So we're looking at Legion, possibly July, August is most people's guess. But before that, we also have the long-awaited Warcraft movie coming out on June the 10th. This is a movie that was in development hell, it seemed like, for a very long time. There were announcements made years and years ago. Sam Raimi was the director that was attached to it at one point. Some of you may recall he was the Spider-Man director, very accomplished director, very, very capable. And when he bowed out, people started to wonder, okay, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? Then Duncan Jones, who is the son of the recently departed David Bowie, rest in peace, one of the most creative people who's ever lived, he jumped in, and if you've never seen his movie Moon with Sam Rockwell, I highly recommend you get in on that. Rent it, see if it's on streaming somewhere. It's a trip. It's a trip. But you can kind of get a sense of his visual aesthetic, his style, and his storytelling ability. It is quite well done. So in his capable hands, the movie has been moving forward for the last couple of years. They did the filming 2+ years ago, and it's been that long that they've been working on the CGI. For those of us that were lucky enough to go to BlizzCon a couple of years ago, we saw what was the first real, fully realized CGI of the movie. It was amazing up close in a theater format. I've never seen anything like it. I thought, really, it looked like actors that were in just incredibly good makeup. That's what the level to which they have reached with this CGI is. It is damn lifelike. And the trailer, it was maybe a little bit less so, but I don't think we're going to be disappointed. I hope that this is going to be the one that breaks the video game movie streak. As we all know, Super Mario Brother curse still exists. I think maybe, I don't know, Mortal Kombat might have been the one good one. But other than that, it's been just a shit show from left to right. With the In the Name of the King, Jason Statham must have really needed the money on that one because it was horrible. But Warcraft could be the one to do it. Warcraft tells a story, as we all know, that speaks to both sides of a conflict, how something doesn't necessarily have to be black and white, that there are certain nuances within a tale that really help fill in and flesh out how a story feels. And that's something that Warcraft has always been very good at. That's what we'll get, June 10th. So we have that coming. We have the Legion expansion coming, hopefully a month, either that month or the month or two after. Then, hopefully, we will have BlizzCon. Well, they haven't said no, and it seemed to point to a yes this year. And if so, with the rate of releases that they're talking about for these expansions now, I am hoping we get another announcement. Another expansion announcement. We'll be 4 or 5 months in on Legion at that point, hopefully. And if their intent is to turn these things around quickly, well, giving us a year's heads up, that would be about right, or a year and a half heads up, that would be about right. So we could be looking at an expansion announcement at the end of this year. So in 1 year, there's a potential that we will have the long-awaited movie, the Legion expansion, which looks to be killer, and the expansion announcement for whatever is coming next. Now, on top of that, as part of the general Blizzard family, we also have Overwatch coming out. I don't think that they've said what date it is specifically, but that's coming in the next several months. And for those of us that have been lucky enough to get into the beta, I got into the beta weekend. A lot of fun. That sucker needs to be tuned like crazy, but I had a lot of fun. Their first shot at an FPS over there, doing very well. I see why they went that way. We're going to be happy. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm confident that we'll be happy with that. So on top of that, well, what other announcements could there be? I think there's going to be a Diablo announcement, a third expansion for Diablo 3, just based on all of the work that they've been putting in Diablo. It's become a very solid game if you haven't played it recently. I've been digging Season 5 myself. So in 1 year, it is possible we could get 2 expansion announcements, a movie, the expansion for Legion, a new game. I mean, this is shaping up to be just a monster year for Blizzard, and especially for us as Warcraft players. So, I'm so pumped. I'm so excited. I can't wait for us to all ride this wave together. And I'll be here. Your loyal servant will be here to guide you through every step of the way. So going hand in hand with this growth, we also have something on the business side of Blizzard which I think changes the game for them. And that has been this continual growth of their esports division. Now, if you haven't heard, there was an article in the LA Times last week that talked about how Activision Blizzard, bought out Major League Gaming, which was this company that used to do a lot of the esports programming. And one of the things that Blizzard said, or Activision Blizzard said in their press release, was that they wanted to bring this company on board to bring their ability in-house so that they could have more professionally produced events. They're not thinking small time, folks. They are thinking big. They want to grow this esports division into something that would be noticed on a national level, not just, the national sport of Korea or South Korea. They want this to be big here. And going with that, you also have ESPN now, which if you didn't see the broadcast of Heroes of the Storm when it was on ESPN, you missed out. That was a shit ton of fun. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. I mean, not only were they great matches, but seeing it on TV, watching it, on my big ass TV in full HD and the whole thing, it was a blast. And to be able to watch any one of the Blizzard games in that format with the shoutcasters, with the production value, with all of that wrapped into one, that represents a huge step forward for Blizzard and for us as the fans, as the players, to be able to stay in contact with essentially the pro ranks of what it is that we do. Now, I will say this. ESPN in particular does have a love affair with oddities. They were one of the first to jump on with MMA, which, it's a mainstream thing, kind of. I'm a big MMA fan, or I probably was more so in the past. And they've always been there for MMA. But I'm thinking more along the lines of, I can remember being in college and watching The World's Strongest Man at 2 o'clock in the morning. And watching Magnus for Magnuson lifting Atlas stones somewhere, it was like in Las Vegas or something. They've shown those kinds of programs almost since they've existed. ESPN2, I think, was founded on World's Strongest Man competitions and Keith Olbermann. So ESPN does tend to reach out a little bit. I know this is going way too far on the business side. ESPN got hammered in terms of their expenditures, and the Disney stock, because Disney owns them, has taken a dive because ESPN has overextended themselves. So hopefully this is something that will continue to be a source of positivity for us and for ESPN, so we can continue to grow that. So if you see it, hit it up. Hit the web pages, watch the events, show support for these things, because that's how companies like ESPN are going to know that this is something that they should continue to invest their time, energy, and most importantly, money in. So when you see it, hit it up, show them that you care, and I think that this is going to be a great thing for us. I mean, watching a Warcraft tournament, I can't even tell you the last time I watched one. With being able to turn on my TV and watch one at home, that's the kind of convenience I need, because I'm a lazy ass and I don't want to have to root around and hunt for my programs, which is sort of what Blizzard is doing right now. They're like the Vince McMahon of the 80s, when Vince McMahon went around and bought up all the wrestling territories. This is kind of like what Activision Blizzard is doing right now. They're buying up all of these esports entities and they're bringing them into one house so that those of us as consumers know where to go right away. You put all of this together, and this is why I'm saying this is going to be potentially the biggest year we have ever had as Warcraft players, as people who are invested in that franchise, but also people that more globally are invested in what Blizzard is doing. So if you enjoy their games, if you enjoy all of this stuff, if you fanboy out like I do, this is going to be one of our greatest years. So very excited about all of this to come. And now it's time for something new, something different that I want to give it a shot here, see how this goes. So welcome now to our first edition of Furious History. When it comes to the story of World of Warcraft and the Burning Legion, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. No, not just the beginning of the MMORPG or the RTS games. No, you have to go all the way back to the very beginning of the Warcraft universe as it exists in their canon. And while the specifics are not quite yet known, one thing is clear, and that is from those early chaotic origins came a race of powerful beings with the sole purpose of bringing order to the various worlds that they found and ensure a safe future for the beings that would follow in their footsteps. These titans, as they were called, or as that they are called, are gigantic metal-skinned gods that came, and as they shaped each of the worlds they encountered, they also empowered primitive races to tend to their works and maintain the integrity of their respective worlds. The Titans were ruled by a select few among themselves, and they were known as the Pantheon. And this Pantheon oversaw the creation and ordering of countless worlds, while holding vigil for threats coming from what they called the Twisting Nether, a name I'm sure we've all heard. The Nether was home to, and is home to, horrific demonic beings bent on destroying all life, and so the battle for the balance of the universe at this time had begun. And to know the history of the Legion is to know not just the members of the Pantheon, but one in particular, Sargeras, the Titans' greatest warrior and defender of their worlds. A bronze-skinned colossus, he carried out his duties for countless millennia, seeking out and destroying the demons wherever he could find them. Over the eons, Sargeras encountered two races, the Eridar and the Nathrezim, two powerful, demonic races, both of which were bent on gaining power and dominance over the physical universe. Though Sargeras' power was enormous and quite sufficient to defeat these races and trap them within prison worlds and places within the Nether, over time he grew incapable of understanding how such races could exist, and ultimately his quest to rid the universe of their presence may be in vain. Now, this is something that you hear often in stories where a hero or some character comes up across some sort of force which just keeps coming and coming and coming. And it's very believable that this once noble being could suddenly be thrown into depression and feel like their mission is, as was Sargeras', potentially in vain. So unable to process the raging doubt and despair that overwhelmed the senses, Sargeras lost all faith in not only his mission, but the Titan's vision of an ordered universe. Sargeras began to believe that the concept of order itself was, well, folly, and that chaos and depravity were the only absolutes within the dark, lonely universe. Sargeras' madness consumed what was left of his spirit. He began to rationalize that the Titans were truly responsible for creation's failure, that the Titans themselves were the problem, not these demon races that they had encountered. Deciding at last to undo their works throughout the universe, he set out to form an unstoppable army that would set the physical universe to flame. Now gripped with madness, and twisted and deformed, Sargeras shattered the prisons of the Eridar and the Nathrezim and set the vile demons free. The cunning demons, bowing before the Dark Titan's vast rage and power, offered themselves to him and swore to serve him in whatever malicious way they could. Seeing that his armies were amassed and ready to follow his every command, Sargeras launched his raging forces into the vastness of the Great Dark. He referred to his growing army as the Burning Legion. Now, while Sargeras was falling into the depths of madness and constructing this great army, the Titans continued their work of shaping worlds, and it was during this time that they came upon the primordial version of the planet we know so well, Azeroth. But when they discovered this ancient version of our world, they also discovered that it was inhabited by hostile elementals that served the beings we know as the Old Gods. Under the influence of these old gods, the elementals did battle with the Titans, who ultimately prevailed and imprisoned each of the old gods deep within the planet. Believing they were successful in containing this evil, the Titans continued shaping Azeroth as they did, and empowered several races to assist them in this task, the dwarves being chief among them. In the end, this newly reshaped world had one continent, which the Titans named Kalimdor, meaning Land of Eternal Night. And within that continent, a lake of great energy had been created. This lake, named the Well of Eternity, was the source of life for the entire planet, and its energy served to grow all life, plant and animal. And with their work done, the Titans imbued great power upon 5 dragons, the 5 we know as the great dragon aspects, with the purpose of protecting Azeroth and keeping guard over the evil that was contained yet ever present. And it wasn't just some random Titans that bestowed this power. Oh no, it was the remaining members of the Pantheon itself that imbued a portion of their power to the 5 great dragons. Alexstrasza the Lifebinder, Malygos the Spellweaver, Ysera the Dreamer, Nosdormu the Timeless, and now Therion the Earthwarder, as we all know as Deathwing, were all empowered by the Titans and charged with the planet's defense. And with the Draconic Guardians in place, the Titans left Azeroth in their care, never to be seen again, or at least as of now. Unfortunately, with such a source of power as the Well of Eternity present, it was only a matter of time until Sargeras came calling. So fast forward to what we now believe to be 10,000 years in the past or so, or at least 10,000 years before the events of the first Warcraft RTS game. And as the eons went on and the power of the Well of Eternity flowed across Azeroth, one race in particular learned to draw directly from its power, the ancient Night Elves. An immortal race in the land of eternal night, it was their queen Azshara who directed her counselor Xavius and other highborn to experiment with the powers of the well in an effort to increase their own power and abilities. And these attempts were noticed. The increased amplitude of the well's magic were like ripples on a cosmic pond that carried through the great dark until they were felt by Sargeras himself. Sensing this deep source of power, Sargeras set his sights on Azeroth, gathering his burning legion with Lieutenants Archimonde the Defiler and Manaroth the Destructor, and began the march to destroy the planet and consume the energy within. Now, in the grip of her own magically induced madness, Queen Azshara allowed herself to be tricked by Sargeras, believing that she would be his queen, and guided his forces to Azeroth. This culminated in her directing her subjects to open a portal within the Well of Eternity to allow Sargeras and his forces through. Once opened, those demonic forces led by Archimonde and Manaroth began to stream through the portal, laying siege against the Night Elves and all of Kalimdor, destroying everything in their path. And so, it fell to a young Night Elf druid, Malfurion Stormrage, to mount a defense against these invaders and repel the Burning Legion. To do so, Malfurion called upon his brother, Illidan Stormrage, to end his own practice of the Highborn's ways and help him find the demigod Cenarius for aid. A young priestess by the name of Tyrande Whisperwind accompanied the brothers, and while both of them shared a fondness for her, it was Malfurion that gained her favor, leaving Illidan to resent his brother. However, Tyrande proved invaluable to Illidan, as she aided him in controlling his addiction to the well's magic, at least for a little while, and together they found Cenarius in the Moonglade of Mount Hyjal, who, along with the dragon aspects, agreed to fight the Burning Legion. Convinced the Well of Eternity was the Burning Legion's true link to Azeroth, Malfurion guided his forces to focus the fighting on Azeroth's capital in an attempt to destroy the well. While the still magically addicted Illidan was horrified by this decision, Tyrande, Cenarius, and their forces stormed Queen Azshara's temple. And so it came that Illidan betrayed his brother. Some of you may have heard Illidan the Betrayer. You've heard that term before. Well, this is where it comes from. He abandoned his group and warned the Highborn of the impending attack, vowing to protect the well at all costs. Heartbroken but undeterred, Malfurion pressed the attack. But Queen Azshara, now prepared due to Illidan's warning, laid waste to much of Malfurion's forces, grievously wounding Tyrande and sending the young druid into a blind rage. The ensuing battle between Malfurion and Azshara threw the Highborn's carefully crafted spellwork into chaos. The unstable vortex within the well's depths exploded and ignited a catastrophic chain of events that would sunder the world forever. The massive explosion rocked the temple to its foundations and sent massive quakes ripping through the tortured earth. As the horrific battle between the Legion and the Night Elves' allies raged about and above the ruined capital city, the surging Well of Eternity buckled in upon itself and collapsed. The resultant catastrophic explosion, often known since as the Great Sundering, destroyed the well, blasted apart the vast majority of Kalimdor's landmass, and ended the first invasion of the Burning Legion. As the aftershocks from the well's implosion rattled the bones of the world, the seas rushed in to fill the gaping wound left in what was once the great continent. At the center of the new sea, where the well of eternity once stood, was a tumultuous storm of tidal fury and chaotic energies. This terrible scar, known as the Maelstrom, would never cease its furious spinning. In fact, I think that there's a class order hall there, shamans. It would remain a constant reminder of the terrible catastrophe and the utopian era that had been lost forever. Somehow, against all odds, Queen Azshara and her highborn elite managed to survive the explosion. Tortured and twisted by the powers they had released, Azshara and her followers were dragged down beneath the raging sea by the well's implosion. Cursed, transformed, they took on new shapes and became the hateful Naga. Azshara herself expanded with hate and rage, becoming a massive monstrosity, reflecting the wickedness and malice that had always hidden within her core. And there, at the bottom of the Maelstrom, the Naga built for themselves a new city, Najatar, from which they would rebuild their power. It would take over 10,000 years before the Naga would reveal their existence to the surface world. And so ends this first installment of Furious History. Next week, we're going to look at part 2 of our Burning Legion history, where we will discuss the events of World of Warcraft, all of our expansions, and thoughts on what is to come. So once again, thanks for joining me on Unshackled Fury. Remember, you can always follow me on Twitter at BerserkerRage for all further updates, and the show itself on SoundCloud and iTunes. Again, thank you for listening. Happy New Year. Strength and honor to you all, my friends.